Good evening, and welcome to the Missouri on a Fly podcast with tonight's guest, Steve Dolly with Dolly's Ozark Fly Fishing. Good evening, Steve. How you doing, man?
Hey, Daryl, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing great. We met this last week down at Salbug, and I can say I had a great time down there. What about yourself?
Yeah, that was probably the best one I've been to in years. I think everyone really liked getting out and seeing each other again. It's been a long time since we've been able to gather up in big groups, and yeah, I think everyone really enjoyed it. It was a great turnout. They got a little bit of fishing in, though I think there was a lot more that would have liked more fishing time. But if you can't fish, where are you going to go? You're going to go to the sailboat.
Yep, I was actually really looking forward to fishing, but it just wasn't in the cards for me. I couldn't make the time to do anything but tie and eat.
Talk. I think my voice has only just recovered.
I actually had a glass of bourbon when I got home, and that helped it dramatically.
Medicinal purposes.
So before we get started here, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors: Cardiac Mountain Outfitters, Woolly Bugger Fly Company, LOZ Lures, Dooley's Fly Fishing, Lazy River Road Outfitters, Grumpy Platypus Hackle, Andronimus Fly Company. And remember, April 9th is the Tri Lakes Fly Fishing Show in Clinton, Missouri. Myself and pretty much all the sponsors will be there. Come give us a shout out. We look forward to seeing everybody there. And I know November 11th is Veterans Day, but every day is Veterans Day in my eyes. I'm a huge supporter of Hooked on Vets and any other veterans organization that helps vets out, gets them in the outdoors. So if you would take time, thank a vet, help a vet, we'd really appreciate it. All right, Steve, let's get in this conversation. You piqued my interest about catching multi species in a tournament in Arkansas. Let's hear a little bit about that.
Sure. Our all species Odyssey has become pretty much what I envisioned, like what I kind of the dream, if you like. I have a few wild ideas at times, and uh, I've been here in the Ozarks lived here since 2005 now, and the opportunities to do things other than just you know trout
Yeah.
are phenomenal. I mean, I didn't grow up having things like pumpkin seeds and smallmouth and even bluegill and um, other panfish, red ear, and those things always floated my boat. And then there's gar and I have a fascination with drum and different species. Love catching gar, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Gar's a blast.
Absolutely. So it was about the time the TU report came back out showing, the future of trout fisheries, particularly in like marginal places like Missouri and the Ozarks, was fairly grim.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually backed away from that a little bit now, but the thought was in my head: what happened? Why are we just fishing for trout, and why aren't these other things? So I wanted to get something to generate a little publicity, and what we came up with was the All Species Odyssey. 2-person teams, 24 hours, 14 hours of fishing time, catch as many species as you can. And we've identified 33 different game fish species within 2 hours of the shot. And we set them off with a shotgun start and let them go, and it has turned into an absolute hoot. We've had 25 teams last year, so 50 people, and we have had some of the best warm water fishers I know. Some absolute legends in the Ozarks, and they still can't catch more than 15 species. So it's being able to do it in a time frame under our other constraints. It's a challenge. There's a whole bunch of fun. There's a crazy silliness. We have professional guides, artists, and then we'll have husband and wife who just think this is a fun thing. And it's not really about the competition. The competition, we have great prizes, but it's not really. It's about jumping in and having a go and catching something different. That's that is the essence of this thing. Because after all, a little sunfish this long counts as one species, and so does a 30-inch brown trout. That's the essence of this game, and it's been a lot of fun.
You mentioned that to me, and I'm like, this is something that fits my wheelhouse. I live in southeast Missouri. The nearest trout stream to me is an hour and a half away. So the biggest part of the time when I fish, I'm fishing for bluegill, white bass, smallmouth, largemouth. I mean, anything that swims.
Yeah.
But
and we've had
do it.
our the majority of our people are from Arkansas, obviously. Southeast Missouri, Southwest Missouri. There's a bunch of people we've had come out of there, and Oklahoma, where they have a similar event. It's run over multiple weekends, all season, see how many you can catch. But this is the kind of thing. This is what we do. This is our back door. This is where we play. Why shouldn't we celebrate that as opposed to, hey, if I wanted to be really callous, and I live on brown trout, but brown trout really here are spotty feral fish, A red ear belongs here.
Yeah.
Or a hog-nosed sucker. They're humble, but they're our fish and they're fun, and going catching them is a hoot. Yeah, I love brown trout and I make my living off that, but anything that pulls on the fly rod, saltwater or freshwater.
That's for sure. We pride ourselves. We pride ourselves chasing carp. Because you catch a big carp on a fly rod, it's like hooking onto a cinder block. I mean,
that's right.
It's not easy.
We chased some giants yesterday on Crooked Creek, and I actually think I first fished for them when I first moved to the States. I was living in Orange County, and we were fishing for them under the shadow of some tech industry skyscrapers behind John Wayne Airport, and there was a little creek there, and it was a little dirty and funky, but you hook one, about it,
That's
and there's so many opportunities. That's people ask me the difference between Australia and America, and in a fly fishing sense, you all have got so many more opportunities to do different things everywhere you go. It's unbelievable. We don't have that much water. We're not quite that lucky. Saltwater, absolutely. But freshwater, we're a dry country. So the event, anyway, I should come back to it. The event is on June 4 and 5. It's $170 a team. Yeah, and you get a hat, an official hat, a shirt. We gave away Yeti water bottles, and Yeti's a sponsor again this year. We'll have prizes for the first 5 teams, so that's some really good. We generally ever get some really good prizes for everyone. Plus, there's a bunch of things like Yeti have already sent us 3 go boxes that will be basically raffled off to amongst all the entrants. So even if you don't catch a fish, you're in the running for some cool prizes. I'm only mentioning Yeti because they're having sponsors. We just haven't finalized what we're actually putting up. That's one of my jobs this week. So, but we'll have sponsorship from Sage and Orbis, and I'm going to run through the list. Nautilus, TFO have agreed to sponsor us. Still checking on Sweetwater Brewery. It's all sorts of good fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Sounds like you've put a heck of a program together there.
Yeah, well, I'm good at begging prizes. I don't know what it is about the Aussie accent, but I have friends in strange places, low and high.
That's awesome. Well, I've actually am running a contest now, a fly tying competition that we're giving away a custom fly tying bench, a vise, and something else. It's a $5 entry, and everybody's sending in a fly to me, and I have a board of gentlemen that we're all gonna grade who wins the competition. But all the proceeds are going to Hooked on Vets.
Nice.
I kind of. Yeah. It's near and dear to my heart because I'm a vet, and I know there's guys out there that can use the outdoors as a healing process. It helped heal me,
Oh yeah,
and I think that if I can use the platforms that I have or the avenues that I have to help other vets, I really like to do it.
yeah, yeah. I'm not a vet, but I mean, water's sort of been saltwater or fresh. It's always been a place of a place to heal, solace. We got through a divorce on the fly fishing and different kinds of stresses and traumas we all go through during life. I mean,
Yep.
got through. My current wife was in a few years ago was in a car wreck as a passenger. We nearly lost her twice. And I
Wow.
came back. I came back to water. Hey, it's different things for different people.
Yeah.
Not that my life is any tougher or better or worse or whatever, but it's just
Yeah.
it's life and what you go live. But coming back to water, I had a guide trip that got me out of the ERA room, and I was seriously thankful to be able to get on the water. It was just like, that's what the water is for all of us. It
Yes, sir.
just took me a long time to figure out that fly fishing was it. I'd fished for 25, 27 years in saltwater and always thought I was looking for something, and yep, then I found it. So things like this, being able to introduce people to the outdoors and fly fishing is a great thing.
That's for sure. While I was down there at Salbug, of course, I met Dave Whitlock. That was my first time I met Dave,
A
and
legend.
we we had a conversation, and it must have lasted 45 minutes about catching carp on the fly.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and everybody, you know, Dave's a super, I mean, down to earth, super nice guy, and everybody kind of puts him on a pedestal like he's untouchable, not talk to him. He's one of those, and some people, I mean, he is a legend, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But they're like, you shouldn't talk to him. You can't talk to him. I'm here to tell you that guy is just as cool as a cucumber, just like we're
Yeah.
talking here. And
Absolutely.
it's his first question about fishing for carp. He says, "You fly fish for carp?" I said, "Well, every now and again." He said, "You know what it's like to set the hook and miss a lot of fish?" Then, yeah, that's for sure. And it was just an awesome conversation. He's actually going to be a guest on the podcast here. His wife
Awesome.
actually told me to call him and set up a time,
Yep.
so I'm excited
Yeah.
about that.
Dave is a truly unique individual and a treasure that's you know a funny story. I the first fish I actually ever decided it was the first fish I caught in a real manner.
Mhm.
I in the Tasmanian sense, you don't cast until you see the fish. In this
Yeah,
case, it was a rising fish, and you select the fly and you make the drift, figure out where your drift's going to be and make the cast, and it drifts and it eats. And that was on a Dave's hopper,
yeah,
13,000 miles away.
that one.
I can't quite. It's yellow belly.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, it wasn't as pretty as that because it was the commercial version. It had the. I'm presuming that one's tied by Dave
Yep.
himself, but worth a lot more. Mine was worth $2.50 that I paid for it in a fly shop. But you know what? Caught my first fish
Hey,
and first proper fish, brown trout too.
I while I was down there, I said I wanted to fish. I drove down there the day before, and I mean, I had to hit the spots. I hit the both dams. I hit both rivers. I'm like, they're releasing so much water, I'll never catch a fish. And I kind of got frustrated. Um, and I talked to a friend of mine. We talked about him earlier, but he's like, "Oh, we'll do a guide trip on Friday." I said, "Man, I'm at Salbug. I just can't do it today. But next time I'm down here, we'll go on a guide trip." So I look forward to coming down there and getting on the white or either of the rivers there and trying to
Mm-hmm.
get on a nice brown. But
Yeah.
we this all water species tournament is pretty much what it is. It there are so many people that don't know about that, and I hope that the podcast gets it out there so we can get more people there. Because I mean, it's just to hear about it. I was excited. I mean,
Yeah, it's a fun event, and it's as I said before, it's a non-competitive competition. I mean, 2 years ago, I watched one of the contestants spend 2 hours teaching a pair of kids who they were at a public fishing
mhm,
hole, and he spent 2 hours teaching kids how to throw throw their lure out. They were like 7 and 8. They were little kids, and he
that's
spent all the time working about it. The last year I came upon. I'll often travel around and try and find people, right? Take
mhm,
photos and stuff. And I stopped at one of the public accesses. There was a bunch of guys there, and there was 3 teams there, all who were vying for. They were competing against each other for the serious prizes, and they're
mhm,
all, hey, this is there's one over in this pond. If one team didn't have one species, they're all competing against each other, helping each other, and I just was like, you know,
that's
it worked out how I actually wanted it to be, because it's not supposed to be a hardcore competition. I just got a bunch of great prizes now. I can't go back. They're all. I've got to keep offering up a fairly substantial amount of money.
mhm,
Um, but it's not that. It is just taking joy in what's been put in the Ozarks for us to fish to, and recognizing all these other species and a little bit of silliness on the way, and it all works out. I'm good at
I am too. I'm really good at silly.
silly, and if you want to have something entertaining going on, get the Australian to organise it.
You
We
know,
know how to party.
we had a conversation there at Salbug. That I had visited Australia. It's been years ago. I think it was 2013. I was there, and I mean, I had a hoot the entire time I was there. It, every day, it's like, let's go have a beer for lunch. It's like, no, man, I can't. I'm still on the clock. And at dinner
Yeah,
time,
I can't do that anymore.
let's have
I
a
grew
beer.
up like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The yeah, there's lots of phenomenal. There's some very funny people in that continent.
Oh, it's
But you've been there. You've been there sooner than I have. I came here 20 years ago. I'm showing my age. Not to mention the grey hair. Um, but there's so many. As I said, there's so many fishing opportunities here. You mentioned about brown trout here a minute ago and
mhm,
coming to the White River and being frustrated. Um, the white is a great fishery, but it is this day and age, it's much higher percentage. It's more of a boat fishery these days, having some
mhm,
form of watercraft. And if that means getting a guide if you're not comfortable with it, but it's equally, there's a lot of times the year the water flows down and it's relatively simple to navigate.
mhm,
Um, I don't know that I'd take a small kick boat out in big water,
yeah,
but the ultimate thing is, at the end of the day, we have people coming in the shop all the time, and it's too high for what they want, and we've educated so many people about how good the boat fishing is on that river.
yeah,
Now we get people coming in and go, man, I wish they'd turn that water on. You get an extended period,
yeah,
because we'll become creatures of habit. But in the reality, if you want to take the best advantage of the white and the Norfolk will give you more opportunity, more days over a given year to wade fish. But if you want to come here and fish, you kind of need to be able to adapt to the conditions.
yeah,
And on a lot of rivers, the idea, we used to get lots of calls. I want to walk outside my cabin and I want to fish right there. Well,
mhm,
that's not our river, because the water flow changes so much over the course of maybe a given day
mhm,
that being able to jump in a vehicle and drive 20 minutes south, or jump over the range to Norfolk, which is 30 minutes away, that gives you opportunities maybe to wade fish all day, or alternatively, boat fish all day. These things are very hard to understand if you're not familiar with this river. That's where the fly shops come into our shop, come into one of the other shops and talk to them. There's a lot of lodges will do it for you too, because we all make our day is determined by what's being released out of the dam and over the previous night and over the course of the day. I put together an app. It's a free app, the White River Fly Fisher. You can get it on the Android, Google Store, or the iPhone Store, the Apple Store, and download it. And it tells you, basically, gives us the information you need, what has been happening, and the proposed schedule. I say, the schedule isn't always stuck to, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. But being able to determine what's going in the water. And then the fourth button is a weather radar, because we all need that in the Ozarks.
That's for sure.
We didn't have tornadoes and storms and stuff when where I came from. I think I'd only ever been through a few lightning storms. But it's like this is the information you need.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, you can build the experience. But if you're just coming down once or twice a year, get your butt into a fly shop, and they will help you plan your day. And it's be adaptable, be flexible in what you're going to fish, how you're going to fish. Because if you come down with one idea you're going to have, like you want to fish a dry fly, or you want to only nymph a heavy fly or throw a streamer, you might go home in tears. But you may have missed that. If you're not flexible, you may miss some phenomenal fishing that's going on that you don't know about. And that's the benefits of living on the White River.
Yeah.
Plus, you've got the fallback. I spent yesterday on Crooked Creek chasing smallmouth, and it was beautiful. It's early, and it's not the best. It wasn't in the best shape, the section we're in, partly because we had some guys keeping fish in front of us. But the just being out there is phenomenal. I love these creeks.
Yep.
And I get to row my slow boat. I get to row the drift boat for a while.
I love the drift boat, man. Love the drift boat.
Yeah.
So something else that I seen while we were down there, and I'm going to have to grab it. Something that you've created. Well, yeah, that's right. Are these pre-rigged nymph setups?
Yeah. The infamous never quit butts.
Yep. And I think these things are amazing. And they, for a lake like Taneycomo, or even these blue ribbon trout streams that we fish here, that there are times that those will be super effective. They'll be all the time. They'll be effective.
Yeah.
This is your brainchild.
Well, what I did was I did what every smart guy does. I didn't have to invent the whole thing. All I did was invent putting them all together.
Yeah.
Because what I basically took was what every guide on this river uses to fish heavy water. And because we're all trying to make, it's funny. There's this thought out there that companies make fly rods for, up here, bank accounts and the elite, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
Everything at 99% of things in fly fishing are made to make it easier for you and I to go fish.
Yes.
Rods, lines, everything. They're all built to help you get better. And it's incredible. They're so much better than they were when I started 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what this is. This is me encapsulating, making what I do every day. And I would rig something like this every day, but putting it all together in a package that the average person can go out there, rig this up on his rod. It's an indicator and butt system that sets you up, and all you do is add tippet and add a long length of fine fluorocarbon, in this case 3X. So you get the 4-foot butt section, add your 3X, and then add your flies as you normally would, and away you go. That skinny section, just like the Euro nymphers, that skinny long tippet helps you get your fly down. And heck, that's no secret, that idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard that first one of the first guides I ever listened to at a club event when I first arrived in Arkansas, and it was Brian Harris, who no longer guides, he's a buddy. But it was like, you fish Norfolk, you take the long length of 3X, and it helps you sink your flies because that leader gets down faster through the water. So the butt section gives you the sliding indicator. You get 3 foot of space there to adjust, and then you adjust your lower lengths and add weight as you need it. But quite honestly, we've been discovering that we can run flies like modern Euro jigs, like my tailwater jig, which has become super popular down here. That you can run that fly on this rig and run 2 flies without split shot and still fish heavy water. And it's adaptation of technique and these types of rigs. And suddenly fly fishing is a lot easier than when I first started fishing high water in 2008, and multiple big split shot and huge wigs and worms, and that's how I learned to tie add droppers driving the boat. So you're trying to untangle and retie and cut off and do all this while you're just driving upstream. Stuff's a lot easier now. If you want to know the best way to get anything done, give it to the lazy guy. And I've got my hand up. So we're selling those never quit butts on our website, and it's one approach to it. It's 3 different sizes. Use the little red one you showed a minute ago. Obviously, lower weight, and that's the one I'd use wading on the streams. If you've got a plunge pool you want to get into, right? The bigger size there. That's a 3/4 inch. That's a White River or Norfolk River size that I use most of the year. And, it's just another way to go and try and get this stuff done. You can Euro nymph, or you can this is semi-adaptation. But it was, as I said, it was been around here on the White for 20 plus years in Norfolk.
It to me, it looks like it would be very successful on Taneycomo as well.
When they're running some water, yeah. But if you're at minimum flow and those flat pools, I think that indicator would land a little heavy. So even the small one, if I've said I've worked in fly shops in the Ozarks since mid 2000s, and if I said one habit I see all the time is people use an indicator that's way too big. Because their first thought is, I want something that, if I move my hand over, I want something that is going to I can see. But if it's too big and not balanced so it's sensitive, it will pull down through that water, through the surface easily. The fish is going to feel it, and they'll drop it before you get a chance to actually set the hook. So balancing the amount of weight you've got underneath and the size of your indicator is one of the nymphing secrets of success to indicator fishing. And you can certainly make your indicator, your bobber, whatever you want to call it, you can certainly make those very sensitive just by adjusting the amount of weight.
What's interesting is I don't use indicators. I actually use a crackleback as an indicator.
Sure.
And my main reason is I know a big orange indicator up on top of the water is going to be seen, felt a whole lot more than what that crackleback is going to be.
Yeah. Well, that crackleback, you're fishing you're fishing a shallow drop, you're fishing shallow water and not much weight. And that's where it is. It's horses for courses. I'm talking for fishing, water that's at least waist deep and fast and heavy. And that's where these things come in.
That's where that'll come in.
You get a little more cover too. But you can still, they will attract fish attention. We've all seen them get eaten. But at the end of the day, picking your type and style of indicator or going away from an indicator altogether, the more tricks you got in your bag, better off you are.
That's for sure.
I'm tricky. No, I've just been to a lot of places and seen a lot of different style and a lot of different styles of doing things. And yeah, next week, streamer fishing on the Yellowstone. That's going to be good.
Nice. I'm actually in 2 weeks, I'll be in the Smokies dry fly fishing for brookies.
Cool.
And then 2 weeks after that, we'll be in the Dominican, and who knows what's going to take place there.
Yeah. So we've got the I got lucky. I got invited to be the they must have been hard up for talent, is all I can say. So I got invited to be one of the 3 Sage Guide ambassadors to promote their new fly rod, and the launch is early next week. So we're the 3 of us are entertaining, hopefully, if I can be entertaining. We're entertaining a bunch of dealers, media, and working for Sage out on the Yellowstone next week.
Well, that'll be a good time, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible. It was like, you know, an old gray man gets to star in a video, and it was really because it pulled in off our streamer fishing we do on the White River.
Actually,
Great rod.
this morning, I think I seen a photo of you in a Sage article.
Yeah.
On Facebook. I was like, I know that guy.
Yeah. Did you see the bend?
It's you, yeah.
There's all these people looking at that photo going, man, that rod's bendy. But what they didn't realize is I've got an 8.5-inch fly on the back end and a 330 grain sinking line. And my colleague who was rowing me, I look to be close to the bank, but I'm actually about 70 feet off the bank, and I'm throwing that. I'm trying to reach out there, so I'm putting a lot of bend in that rod.
Yeah, loading her up hard.
Yes, it is a hell of a tool. I will say that you all should go and play with next week. Sage R8. So I put my little advert in.
So tell us about your shop. I didn't get a chance to get by there while I was down there, but next time I definitely will. Your website's amazing, that's for sure.
Thanks, buddy. Well, I spend less and less time in the shop these days. I'm almost more of a consultant. It's actually owned by a gentleman from Missouri, a good buddy of mine, and we've built this up. And I guess I ran most of the decisions when we first started to try and turn around. I've like you, I've hung out in fly shops over the years, and I just wanted a place that has the right gear, but more important than that, has the right people. And we have people and the right message, that we're not snooty and stuck up, and you're not going to get growled at if you come through the front door. What you're going to do is a bunch of guys who just like fly fishing. That's always been where we've been. And I said, guys, women. My wife's worked in there. Chad Johnson's wife's worked in there. We've always had a big, and that's one of the things I think part of it's in the South, a big number, relatively high percentage of women customers coming through the door as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it's like, and a lot of the time it's people bringing people along. And we've always focused on, being welcoming and to those who are their first time through the first foray into fly fishing is meeting us.
Mm-hmm.
Because people ask me, do you fish a lot of experienced people or beginners? And most of the time I will have a regular of mine in the boat, and they've brought someone who's brand new because they want to reach out and expand their circle of fishing friends and share the love, if you like. And so I spend a lot of time with one beginner and one experienced person in the boat, and it's the same with all our guides, and learning and knowing how to bring those people, what those people actually need on their first taste. And most of the time it's a bent rod and some confidence they can go and do it. That this is not this mystical weird art that is too hard. No, our job is to make it easier. And the same thing with the shop, getting people through those first steps into fly fishing, make them feel like they can do it, make them feel like they can belong as a fly fisher, makes life so much easier. Besides, life's too short to be grumpy old bugger.
That's for sure. That is definitely for sure. Something that we've we've pushed here on the podcast is you don't have to have the best equipment. You can still get out there and do what everybody else does.
Oh yeah, and look, even what's an entry level rod these days compared to the first stuff I bought? What was it, 25 years ago? Oh my lord!
Mm-hmm.
They're way nicer, you know, and really what people they can't. It's very hard to buy a bad out.
I agree.
If you stick to the right real fly fishing brands, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's TFO, Orvis, or Sage, you know, it really doesn't matter what you want to spend because they all have expensive rods and cheap rods.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff that you're getting to fish with is pretty well tuned for people to go and fish. Like, and I have this. What people need is a medium fast rod, particularly if they're a guy. You know, you get into anything too extreme, too fast, or too slow, and they're really hard. But those middle of the range rods, they're built to be, from these smart companies, they're built to be nicer. And the word I'm looking for is they have a large sweet spot, right? It's not like a little tiny spot you got to hit on the baseball bat. No. They're very forgiving to minor errors. And typically with most males, we want to whack it too hard, right? We're trying to push the rod too hard. So if the rod's too bendy, then it's really easy to overpower. And your cast go to crap. So what we can put most people in their modern gear can find their way into it. What they need is not a more expensive rod. What they need is someone telling them, okay, it's okay to screw up, you know.
Yep.
I tell my customers all the time, you know, you may have someone, and quite honestly, you know, people who have performed at a high level in other professions or sports or whatever. And I had one the other day who was, he'd been a pilot, he'd been a competitive athlete. So he was used to succeeding, and now he picked up fly fishing, and it's like, it's okay to suck for a while, you know.
Yeah,
you're learning.
sure.
It's not supposed to just fall into your lap. Yeah, it's what you have to learn, and because I was super competitive too when I started, and I remember nearly throwing all my stuff into a lake on the way home in Tasmania because I was like, oh, this is way too hard. But thankfully I didn't. You persevere and learn to laugh if you can at the foibles that go on, and you can make it through. And that's what good guides do. They make it fun on that learning experience and give people the confidence. I keep coming back to it. Give people confidence they can go out the next day and they're going to have a good time, that they can do this stuff.
You know, it's been a few years ago, but I started transitioning into, I started tying big streamers and throwing big streamers. And once I transitioned into using big streamers, I learned that big streamers will tell you if you're making a mistake or not.
Oh yeah, they will.
You will find out really quick.
and too, that's the other thing. The modern lines we've got now, I think they're actually a great teaching tool once you've got learned. Because as you go along this path, you get to a certain point, you turn into that 30, 40, 50 foot caster, and now it's time to go learn the double haul, and you've got a decent loop. But here, you're starting to step into those big streamers and shooting headlines. You're gonna learn what a rod needs, what it feels like to load up a rod properly, so you can replicate it, and actually will make you a better caster when you come back to throwing your 5 weight in a dry fly.
That's for sure.
Because it's you don't throw those things unless you have a good loop, and you don't throw them at range.
I did learn one thing, that you will hit yourself in the back of the head and the back with those large flies.
You can do. It's all technique. It's all technique. But there's so many corners. I mean, I love big streamer fishing, but if you ask me what my preference is, I'd tell you, and I seem to have something of a name of a streamer fishing. Sometimes I think I'm being a little typecast because I fish streamers like 3 months a year,
Mm-hmm.
then if the conditions are right, the rest of the year I can pull out the rod. But the rest of the time, most of the time, I'm fishing either client customers. I'm fishing nymphs. But you asked me, I'm a dry fly guy by heart. You give me a mayfly, let's say a sulfur and a 16, only one fly because that's how it should be.
Yeah.
Keep the challenge going here. One fly. Don't make a cast till you see the fish rise. Let's go see if we can find a good one. That to me is everything I love about fly fishing. Although you can throw a few more things in there, like watching a tarpon come up on your fly. That's sexy as hell.
Oh, that's amazing.
Love red fishing, but
Mm-hmm.
if it all comes back down to it, my happy place is a mayfly, a nice long leader, and let's go to work with some heads.
That's a good time. That's for sure.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, Steve. Before we go, I want to thank our sponsors again: Cardiac Mountain Outfitters, Woolly Bugger Fly Company, LOZ Lures, Dooley's Fly Fishing, Lazy River Road Outfitters, Grumpy Platypus Hackle, and Andronimus Fly Company. Without these guys, this wouldn't be possible. Please go take a look at their websites, their Facebook pages. They got a lot of great things to offer. Steve, again, thanks for being on the show.
No worries, buddy.
Before we go, give your website out, your guide service. I want everybody to get the.
So it's Daly's Ozark Fly Fisher in Cotter. You can find, if you just type Daly's in, you'll find us. And it's the actual website is the ozarkflyfisher.com. And July 4 is our Odyssey. And we have a bunch of information on there about our blog, even down to places you can go fish for these species. So local knowledge is part of it, but only a part. And also fly fishing film tour under the bridge on May 28, which is another local party we run.
Well, that's the day after my 40th birthday. I might have to jet down there for that. I would like to. I'd like to enjoy that. That'll be a good time.
That's a good one.
Well, again, thank you. And
thanks, buddy.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. And I look forward to seeing you all again next week.
Yeah.
Have a great week.